Welcome back to This Is Not CBC.
You know what's been sitting heavy on my mind lately? The MAID program here in Canada. And no, I'm not talking about people who are suffering from terminal illness or unbearable physical pain. I'm talking about those people with mental illness, depression, disabilities, and now apparently dementia. Is this really what we've become? A country that quietly decides who gets to live and who's had enough? I lost my dad to suicide when I was 6 years old. I don't know if he ever tried to get help. It was 1982, and most people back then didn't. But fast forward to the early 2000s, my uncle, my mom's brother, he went in for help. He told the hospital straight up that he planned to end his life that day. I know this because he had shown up at my mom's house and she had advised him and called the hospital that he was coming. They spoke with him for a bit. They set him up as an outpatient and they sent him home. What did he do? He drove home, he parked his car in the garage, he stuffed the exhaust pipe, and wrote my cousins a 9-page letter before the pen dropped down the page. Now, my cousins were just kids in public school. They found him when they got home. They walked through the same garage every single day, and that day they got to find dad. For years, I blamed them both. I did, my dad and my uncle. I thought they were selfish, but I also blamed the system that was supposed to help them. I thought by now, decades later, we'd have learned something. But instead, we've built safe injection sites and assisted dying programs that make it easier than ever to lose someone you love. 2 weeks ago, a friend of a friend went to what they called a celebration of life, alive. So, you know what that means, right? The person wasn't dead yet. It was the day before his scheduled MAID appointment. Everyone came to say goodbye, so he was at least able to do his thing. I think that would be really hard personally to do that, but now he was in pain, so I get that. For people who are terminal, I can understand not wanting to suffer anymore. But for depression, for sadness, for feeling like life is too hard, that's not compassion. That's giving up on people who still have a chance. I know I used to work for a charity that called for donations for CAMH. That's a Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto. They actually do a lot of good work. They've got resources and programs across the whole country. But man, you guys, those calls were rough. I talked to moms who lost their kids to overdose, sisters who lost their brothers to suicide, people waiting for the day their loved one would go through with MAID because they were just too depressed to keep going. I couldn't do it. I'd end up crying on calls instead of fundraising. So yeah, we can admit, that job didn't last long. I was there, I think, 3 months. Now, something though is seriously broken here because instead of fixing the cracks, the lack of mental health care, the lack of addiction support, we're widening the gap with a syringe and a signature. Let's look at the numbers. Over 60,000 Canadians have died through MAID since it became legal in 2016. In 2023 alone, over 15,000 people used the program. That's about 4% of all deaths all across Canada. Meanwhile, about 4,500 Canadians die by suicide every year. You guys, that's like around 12 people a day. And mental health needs? 4 out of 10 people with mental illness say they can't get the help they need. So you tell me, does this sound like a country offering hope or a country handing out exits? And now dementia. What? How do you even consent to do something like that when your mind isn't fully there anymore? That's not choice. That's fear and a system that's given up. I'm angry. I'm sad because I've seen what suicide does to a family. I've seen the ripple effect. Grief turns into depression, depression turns to addiction, and then the cycle starts all over again. And now, instead of fighting for these people, the government is fast tracking them towards a clean, clinical ending. Is that what we call compassion now? We've lost the meaning of the word. We need treatment, not termination. We need connection, not convenience. We need to help people live, not teach them how to die. So, yeah, I'm against MAID for the mentally ill, the disabled, and those struggling with depression because they don't need a permission slip to die. They need a reason to keep living. Thanks for watching. This is not CBC. This is real life. And if no one else will say it, I will.